leadership or emotional
Yeah.
intelligence is absolutely
Is,
necessary
yes.
for all sectors. I'm from
Yeah.
high tech. I'm from high tech, and that's missing there too. So,
Yeah. Yes. And
yeah,
it's not just at the executive level, but it's at all levels.
of
So
course, absolutely, yeah, it's missing everywhere. But in terms of let's move on to navigating difficult conversations because you took us there.
okay.
So, in your experience, what types of difficult conversations often arise in your role as a C-suite executive? And so, what have you done to really navigate those challenging conversations and really maintain positive relationships and achieve desired outcomes? I know it's a long question, but
Yeah. So, I have to say, sitting in a CFO role, I can't provide a lot of detail around,
of course,
difficult conversations that I've had to have.
yeah,
But, in broad strokes, you can probably guess that a lot of those conversations or difficult conversations have to do with the financial position of the company and what is being communicated to external stakeholders and internal stakeholders. And so, in order to facilitate those discussions, from a financial perspective, like you have to stick with the facts, and you have to base your conversation in solid, tangible facts, and you really do have to take the emotion out of it. As hard as it is, because when you are in situations, people are passionate about, the ways capital should be spent or not spent. And you really have to take a very objective approach to that. And then you also need to just have the confidence in the basis of your facts, And so the nice thing about numbers is that they're numbers. And they don't lie. So
don't lie.
math is math. So, I do have that benefit. But I think, some of the conversations I've had to have is, you really have to take your personality out of it, and focus on making sure that, the facts are accurately represented for
Yeah,
all.
and whatever decisions, it's the outcome
Yeah,
is based on what's best for the business. And I do
correct.
like the fact that you said you set yourself apart. You don't, those leaders who tend to connect themselves with the actual work
Yeah,
or scope, they don't do very well.
exactly.
I'm sure.
Exactly.
So you seem to be one who can just set yourself apart from really what you're discussing and look at it objectively and get buy-in that way because
Yeah,
people can see and then that impacts if you do that association, it impacts how you regulate your emotions. It's all
correct.
downhill at that point. So
Correct. Yes.
I'm glad that you mentioned that. Very key. So in terms of if you can just delve a little bit into empowering authentic leadership, key area.
Authentic leadership.
Yes, authentic.
Okay.
Yes.
Um,
So, what does authentic leadership mean to you, Kimberly, and how do you strive to embody it in your
um,
and day-to-day responsibilities?
I mean, authentic leadership to me is, that you are showing up as your whole self, and you're being true to yourself and to your values. I know we've talked a lot about, being compassionate and the emotional intelligence of, when you're mentoring your team, you're kind of meeting them at, their level or adapting to kind of your teaching style to something that meets their needs. That said, like you can't, you know, put your own personality aside. Like you still have to embrace kind of what your skill set is and what your approach is and what your personality is and what you bring to the table in that role. And so not losing that sense of yourself in order to meet the needs of others. So there's a difference between adapting your style to help mentor someone versus completely changing who you are to fit in with that particular group or to meet those mentorship needs. So it's a hard one to kind of define. I know it's like one of the buzzwords, authentic leadership, but I
Transparency.
think
It's
it's,
all, yeah, it's all about transparency, and really
yeah,
it showcases how confident of a leader you really are in
yep,
yourself. Because if you're willing to sacrifice different aspects or components of your personality and character to really appease someone else, then you must not be confident in who you are.
correct. Yeah. Yeah, you can't lose who you are. I just something else came to mind and then it slipped out. But
I'll give you some time.
if it comes back, I'll
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, embodying that is very key. And of course, people like to see the true you. And that encourages them to bring out their true selves on the job. And you always win when somebody shows up with their true self, the best
yeah,
version of themselves and not their representative.
yes.
So
I agree 100%. Yeah. You will never succeed trying to be someone else or trying to emulate someone else.
absolutely, absolutely
Yeah.
right. And that's something that I had to learn the hard way too. In leadership on and say it's not about this particular person, it's really who you are
Yep.
bringing, because we all have unique capabilities, we all have unique talents. And when I started to
Yeah.
do that and be comfortable showcasing my true self in all scenarios, that's when my strengths started to be highlighted more without me having to
Yep. Exactly.
and
Without you having to speak up about it. Yes.
exactly.
Naturally comes through.
There you go. Naturally comes true. And then, so how
Yeah.
do you really empower and inspire your team members to embrace their authentic selves within your work environment?
Um, gosh, it's hard to like put that into words and how you do it. This is where I feel like I need better vocabulary. I wish I'd taken better, more like
You're doing
writing
an
classes.
amazing job, just the way it is.
I know. I put everything into a spreadsheet, that's how we do it.
It's always good to be the numbers person. That's all I can say. They're the ones with the true power.
Exactly. We hold the keys.
Exactly.
Um, no, I think empowering, your team to show up as their true self is, um, I think it goes back to, there's a statement that is, people listen with the intent to respond. They don't listen with the intent to comprehend. And so I think to encourage people to show up as their true self, you really have to be mindful of the fact that, you need to listen to them with the intent to understand and to comprehend and not just to respond to whatever they're saying. Um, and whether that's a work related matter, whether that's talking about a personal issue that may be impacting their work performance, but really showing up and listening and allowing them to be who they are and to share that as a in those conversations, as opposed to being that hard driving deadline driven, deliverable driven type of organization.
Absolutely, absolutely right. And then I always say that people prefer not to be dealing or engaging with somebody who's a psychopath. Right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
just thinking that you're just going to be saying, I always think just to be a conforming, I used to think be a conforming employee.
Yes.
Yes, but no. It
No.
shows that you have no judgment and that you
Yeah.
don't have necessarily critical thinking. And when
Yeah.
you do, you're doing yourself a major disservice when you're positioning yourself like that. And
Yeah.
there's no value, there's no win, because like I said, everybody has hidden talents,
Yeah.
unique potency out there. And if you choose to hide your authenticity, right?
Yeah.
This is what everyone is losing, not only yourself, but everybody around you, within your team is losing.
Yeah.
That's my piece of.
Agreed. And the best ideas come to the surface when you are able to have open dialogue with your team, and you can't do that not fostering that authenticity and that type of communication style.
Yes, trust.
within the
Like
organization.
that's the word you were trying to,
That
yeah.
trust. Yeah,
Building
yeah,
that trust factor is key.
yeah,
So authentic leadership helps with that too, and it brings out, trust and the understanding that you
yeah.
understand the person's world, and it's okay for them to bring the true self and not to hide different,
Yes,
parts of themselves to please you or to fit in.
yes, yes.
So I have a mouthful on that because I've endured that so many on my journey. So let me not take over the conversation here, but it's really all about you and what the wisdom you have, and you have lots of wisdom to share with our listeners today.
Thank,
Brilliant. Thank
thank
you
you.
for being here. And then, of course, what challenges or resistance have you encountered, particularly around fostering authentic leadership within the workplace?
Um, I've definitely encountered leaders who, yeah, well, leaders, they may be in a position of leadership who are, who don't have kind of an mindedness towards various leadership styles. They've, kind of grown up in a, call it an environment where, you follow certain, some particular leadership style, and it's really hard to they make it difficult to work with, right? When there's not an openness to, the way you do things or the way you approach things, or an openness to changing the way kind of you think about how you arrive at, major decisions. And so, yeah, they can be very frustrating, those types of personalities, to work with. Who think that there's one way of doing it because it worked for one person, or it worked for, it worked in a different application, doesn't necessarily mean it works in the situation that you're in.
Yes, that's
Sorry,
good.
that was not a very articulate response to that. I apologize.
No. It actually did address the question. So
Okay.
uh, before that input, and then of course, that's just in winding down. We can just put some lens on strategic and personal resilience network building. And if I can just get a sense of how important is it for you to have a strong network of support as a C-suite executive. And again, I'm looking at someone here who seems very much highly competent in terms of building that circle of support to get the job done. So
I cannot stress how important it is to have that support network, um, and especially of peers who have been in your position or are in your position, who understand the challenges that you're facing, and can understand that you can have a conversation with them without about the issue without having to reveal specifics, and still give you, that perspective and that advice, because they've been in your shoes or in a similar situation before. So it's a challenge. Like I said, as a CFO, there's not a lot that you can really say publicly, and a lot of what you would classify as a challenging situation. But being able to have, like, that support network of, especially of women who have been in those situations before, to just provide kind of a sounding board, not necessarily on the details of how you need to address something, but on how you address it as a leader, um, in the best interest of your organization.
mhm, brilliantly said. I mean, I just I can't tell how important it is to have that support system in place, and it's
Yeah,
really critical for mental health and well-being too. And with Boost True, everything, every portfolio, and now we're building an app. Everything is centered around how we can actually get confidential and, help, accessible
yeah,
help to
yeah,
professional business leaders there where, it feels psychologically safe. It's a safe outlet for them
yeah,
receiving help and being able to thrive in their environment. So I do understand that, and being in the high-tech sector before many years, I understand about IP and intellectual property and a whole lot.